Well, hello everyone, and it's been a long time since I've commentated a video on this game. Hello everybody, your humble host Mike Camo here again for a video for Gran Turismo 7. It's my first voiced gameplay thing of the new year, so I hope you guys are enjoying your new year. It's February, it's Valentine's Day weekend. If you guys have a significant other, hopefully you guys have plans. So I have a couple of projects. One of them is on the screen right now. This is a Corvette with a LT5 C7 engine. I have it detuned because I'm going to be doing some work to it. It doesn't quite have everything, so I'm going to do some work to this car. But the reason why I wanted to do this is because I saved enough money in this game, as I've been playing for hours and hours and hours, and I finally got my hands on something very cool. So I have cars like the V8 Vantage, the Ophelia, I still have the C8 Corvette, still have the C1, have the ZR1 in the Grand Sport colors, the Z8 I bought a couple weeks ago. I still have some odds and ends, I have the Mustang GT. This car is also a bit of a, this is a NASCAR stock car style thing. So this is the GT500, but I've dropped in the mighty the mighty 7-liter Maverick motor, and I've been testing it. I have like 400 miles on it, so you guys, I don't know why I jumped out of that. So, but yeah, so I've been buying, but yeah, I've been saving up a lot of these. I've been racing a lot, and reason why I wanted to show you guys today, and I have a Ford Roadster, which I'm doing, Ford Cosworth. Also have a couple of cool cars here and there. I have an RCF that I'm doing. I have an Archer TC that I'm probably going to be doing some stuff with. The RCF has a 2JZ in it, and it's exactly what you guys expect when you first put the 2JZ in it. It's kind of slow, and it kind of kills the car. The car's a very... So I have the 917 Living Legend. That's this car. I've also have a couple of Porsches that I've been working on. I have the new GT3R, which I got in the Rexy colors. Couple odds and ends. I still have the Supra. And then I have this doohickey, the little Zoomy or the Xiaomi or whatever the hell it's called. But the reason why I wanted to show you guys is because I've been saving up my pennies for this. This car right here is such a cool car. So for those of you who have watched the movie Le Mans with Steve McQueen, you guys will know exactly what this car is. This is that car that he piloted in the movie. Although they were lookalikes, they were kind of lookalikes. You could kind of tell that they were lookalikes and stuff like that. So, it's... So, there's only one place to bring this car and to bring it back home to Le Mans with no chicane. I'm going to run during the day because this car at night won't be well, you won't be able to see the glorious 917. Now, the 917 was a line of cars that was produced from it was in competition from 1969 in its first editions to its one-off in the early 80s. Somehow, Porsche actually has a thing of putting their cars into competition in the later part of the decade. So they did that with the Dower 962 back in the day. So you can see that there's actually a 962 at the top of the leaderboard with a 306. And I believe the CXR is also up there and stuff like this. So this is the no chicane version of Le Mans, and there is the Porsche 917. Now you guys can hear it. I don't have earphones, so I can't tell what's happening. So I'm gonna do some changes. So I'm gonna put the downforce down to the minimal numbers because I want to see this thing just glide through the air. This is such a cool car. 498 horsepower. These things as you can see, it's at a 400 and this is a 407. This is a 490. This is a 4,907. So this is a 4.9 engine. It's 71. They moved them all up to 5 liters, so that would have been. So the 917 LH and stuff like that would have had that. I believe this car is registered to have a racing gearbox. I will change it if I need to do that. But the 917 raced from quite the life. So it raced in 1969. Although in the 1969 version, and this was a road-based car. See, this had indicators and stuff like that. So like this had to be a road-based car, and this rode from 1969 all the way till 1971. It made its competition debut here in '69, and it wasn't very stable, this car. So, this car was pretty slippery. It would do 238 miles an hour on the Mulsanne straight with the movable tails and stuff like that. But what they found out is it was rather vicious to corner with, and they found out that the stability was down to the rear wing here. So what happened was in late '69, John Wyer, who was partnered with Gulf at the time, had just won the Le Mans race in '69 with the GT40s, and he knew a thing or two about making cars go fast. So Porsche needed him to figure out why the car wasn't running so well, and I'm highlighting why the car didn't do so well right here. I'm running out of room here. These cars could do about 220, although my car is probably gear drawn. So I probably need to put a custom gearbox on this and do this because this isn't doing anything. I just wanted to do a quick test to see if this thing was geared properly. It is not. This engine has so much acceleration, it's unreal. But what happened was they were finding that the rear downforce wasn't they were testing and they came in after a couple of laps and they noticed that the bugs were hitting the front wing. The front of the car was covered in bugs, but they noticed the rear wing there, the thing with the little flap in there. They noticed that the bugs were hitting the rear of the car, and they weren't pushing the car down. And it kind of by Mother Nature and some help with some bugs, they figured out that they needed to create a shape to make the car more stable under braking and cornering, because they knew if they were going to win races and they were going to last, they needed to do this. So John Wire, they got duct tape and self-strapping screws, and they fiddled around with shapes until they got the wing configuration we got here, and the car had more downforce and the car could be given more power, because in 1969 these cars only had about 550 horsepower, but when he found out how to make these things fly, a bunch of flies actually helped them make this thing fly, shall I say. And Wire ended up winning the race, and Porsche 917 ended up winning the 1970 Le Mans race. And these cars ended up being pretty 1970, although although that's the most famous one, the one that kind of told the world that they were kind of dealing with a world beater was back in the thing that really told everybody that this was going to be a world beater was back at Daytona in 1970. But I'll probably do that when I get this car a little bit better geared, and I'll take it to Daytona. I'm gonna go back to the 4 minutes and 1 second. This thing did not do 4 minutes and 1 second. This thing can go a lot faster. So they figured out how to make it go fast with aerodynamics, thanks to a bunch of flies that weren't hitting the rear wing. But what really made this car so good was how powerful and how durable it was, and how easy it was to fix it and stuff like that. This car was meant to beat Ferrari at its own game, and it did for 2 years at Le Mans. So so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to so you can't really put any nitrous or anything on a new body. It costs about $24 million, which is a lot of money. So, and you can't buy any turbochargers, nothing for it. This is just a straight up engine. This car was not to be messed with, really, because it's perfect as is, really. So what I will do is get a new gearbox. So yeah, see, there's really no power adders, and we can't put a turbocharger or a supercharger, because this car was pretty darn good as it was. So it really doesn't need any help, because it was just that good of a car. In fact, adding a turbocharger to this little hot rod of a machine would be a disservice the purity of the car itself. So at Daytona in 1970, when this car debuted, well, in 1969, in November and December 1969, they ended up doing tests at Daytona, and they found out what they needed to do with it, and they found out what the car liked, what the car didn't like, what the car was going to behave like, because the banking at Daytona. So They went there. They tested with that and a Porsche Salzburg car, which was also a 917K, same configuration as this car. And they figured out setups, gearboxes, how they were going to set up the suspension, and how they were going to look through the window on the banking, because they were finding that there was no way to do so. And you see that this car revs to about what's that about 8,000 RPM, 9,000 RPM, I think. Yeah, it's about 8,500 RPM, although some of the 917 LHs could rev higher. So I'm going to gear this to 400. Because on the big long straights, this thing was a absolute rocket. So you want to make sure that this car breathes. I did not hit the brakes right there, and I don't think I wanted to ever do that. So let's get this on track. So they went to Daytona in 1970, and Ferrari had come up with the 512S, and Mario Andretti, that guy, put it on the pole for Ferrari, and he ended up by a couple of seconds, and a lot of people were bewildered because the 917 at this point had 600 horsepower, and the Ferrari was a little bit of a heavy boy, and a lot of people were like, ooh. So a lot of people said that Porsche must have been sandbagging when they were. And Joe Siffert and Pedro Rodriguez ended up blowing the doors off the prancing horses. And from that point on, a lot of people knew this car was going to kick some serious butt. So they ended up winning. I think Siffert's car ended up winning by I think like 10 laps or something like that, because the Rodriguez car had to come in for a stop to change its gearbox or engine, and that ended up cementing this car as sort of like how the Audi was back in the early 2000s, in the mid to late 2000s, up until the Audi R8 and the Audi R10, the Audi R15, so on and so forth. That cemented this car as just one of those ones that had to be beaten, could be beaten, and they ended up winning the race in, I don't think they ended up winning the race in 70, I think that was Ferrari, but in 71, I mean the Daytona race, but in 71, Porsche definitely wiped the floor with the prancing horses at the time. This thing is a little wayward because it doesn't have as much downforce. This car was wild. So it's won in 71, but in 1970, but in the late fall and in the late summer and the early fall, the FIA/the ACO figured out these cars were too fast. This car's long tail cousin, the LH, was clocked at 241 miles an hour on the Mulsanne straight, and the FIA was like, nah, this is just like the GT40, and the Ferrari wasn't too far behind, so they're like, nah, we're gonna do. So what they did is they did what they did in the 90s, and since the oil crisis was showing up, they wanted cars that were lower revving, so they put the 3-liter Grand Prix setup in. That's when we had the Matra Ferrari wars go on. So these cars disappeared from the racetracks after 1971, although this car would show up to race in the 81 Le Mans as a Group 6 car, and it didn't do very well because it was obviously an outdated chassis, and it was more of a GT car at the time because it had a bigger engine, and they just really couldn't stand up to the Porsches and stuff that were coming around. So it's a shame what happened, although when they came into the States, although it would be something of a different story in the States though. So in 1969, 1970, this car looked bonkers enough to be in Can-Am. And in 1970, there was a few teams that campaigned these. In 69, there was even one with a V16 engine. But in 1971 was kind of the start of the turbo Panzer cars. So in 1970, Roger Penske, yes, that Roger Penske, ended up signing a deal with Porsche to take one of their 917s, take a 5-liter flat 12, put 2 turbochargers on it, and make 1,000 horsepower. And it absolutely, 1970, it was there to crush the McLaren dominance at the time. In 1970, not so much, but in 1972 and 73, they had some success, and McLaren was no longer dominant. But it was 73 and 74 where Porsche and good old Roger Penske asserted their dominance, man. 73 and 74, they had a car that could make 1,100 horsepower during the race and could make 1,580 horsepower during the qualifying sessions. Let that sink in for you. And the car weighed less. The car weighed as much as a Formula One car. About 650 kilograms. So 1,400 pounds and over 1,500 horsepower. Less than a ton. Yes, I just said 1,500 horsepower in a car less than a ton. The thing had a power to weight ratio way better than the Bugatti Veyron or Bugatti Chiron. What happened to Can-Am? It died. Well, it died because of the fuel crisis, but I don't think the Can-Am organizers wanted Roger Penske to kill off another great motor series because he obviously dominated Trans Am. So, and this was in the time when when he was in league with Porsche with the 911s and stuff like that. Fun fact, I think he actually put 917 brakes on the Penske Camaros. On the Penske Camaros and the Javelins and stuff like that. So he took brakes out of this little guy, and he put them on a Javelin and the Camaro. It was totally funny. So yeah, this car is bonkers, and I'm not really running this car as fast as I should, but just don't drop off of the curbs too much. I'll reset the lap. Yep, over the curbs. I'll have to get better at doing the lap times because that does not. You also got to remember this. This configuration of Lamar is a little slower than that. So. So yeah, I'm going to take this to Daytona now, and so 3 minutes 45. That's not bad. That's probably what its lap time was in 1981. But yeah, it was a brilliant car throughout its years. And as I said, 1980, and had one last hurrah at Le Mans in 1980. I got an award card. This had one last hurrah at Le Mans in 1980. I don't think this ever raced at Watkins Glen. per se. It might have. It was part of the World Sports Car Championship, so I'm pretty sure it did. Daytona. Oh, there's a bunch of lights here. I can enjoy this. Lamar at night, he can't see Jack Diddley squat. You didn't see Jack Diddley? See, I love the 917. It's such a cool machine, and it's so well done of a car. So it's one of those all-time great cars, and it's a far cry from what cars would be later on in their lives. So actually, let me change tires a little bit because I don't want to use hards on a switch these out. Switch these to softs. Yeah, so Daytona was a whole different ball game for the 917. So the 917 at Daytona was such a cool car. Now the car wasn't as lit back then. Now the one thing that really was difficult for the drivers was looking through this was looking at the top of the banking while you were sitting down here. You couldn't really see much. Couldn't really see much at Daytona back in the 1970s. I'll probably have to switch out these lights at some stage. But the guys could not see out of this roof. So what they ended up having to do, and you'll see it in the photos from 1970 that. Why am I driving all over the map? Sorry, folks. And this thing had a nice wooden shifter. This thing had a cool wooden shifter, so. So in 1970, they came here, and they came with a car in this livery, and I don't know if this is a Lamar car or if this is Joe Siffert's car, I can't remember. But Joe Siffert was the hard charging guy, and they absolutely nailed Ferrari. Ferrari didn't even last during that race, actually. So, so it was a huge upset win, and it showed the world just how much of a beast this thing truly was. And it was a beast. It really made other things look like a push cart because it was just so technologically advanced, so German. second because this thing just has so much torque. See, if I had a turbocharger on this thing or anything like that, it would just, it would kill the handling and it would make this car too fast. This car was like, this car was beyond, this car was so space age at the time. It was crazy. So we're living the old fantasies of racing at Le Mans and racing the 917. This was a dream. This was a dream car for many people when people saw it in that movie. So yeah, I mean, this car is so cool, so great, and it's an amazing car to drive. It really doesn't take that much setup. I'm really not leaning in on it too much, and it has a great silhouette. You gotta admire that. But a 149, which is probably what this thing would probably 149, which is what this thing would probably done. 149, which is what this thing probably would have done in period, because it was really cool car. So you know, it's cool that a car like this exists, and it's a really amazing, one of those really a good looking car that's a car of your dreams. So yeah, just stop talking. I never get the huge stack of cash. Never, ever, ever. So yeah, that's the 917, folks. It's such a cool car, and what made it cool, and Gran Turismo's attention to detail has just made this car so legendary. So, you know, if you ever get a chance to see one of these cars in person, or see a replica of it in person, I've never seen one myself, but if you ever see one of these in person, it is truly a sight to behold, because it's amazing. I'll tell you a couple of quick facts about this. So I wish I could show you guys just how crazy these cars were. So one fun fact, so about the front end here, about the front end here, so if you guys lifted off the top of that thing and you guys looked into the suspension, you would see the pedal box. There would be the steering column and then the pedal box. Your feet used to be right in front of the front, used to be in front of the front axle. So guys who drove these things were cowboys. The guys who drove these, absolutely goddamn motherfreaking nuts to drive these. Derek Bell drove one of these in drove these cars from 1969 into 1970. He said, and he's a Porsche guy. He'll tell you, he was nuts driving this darn thing. And Derek Bell, but he said the car was so fun to drive, they didn't care. They weren't conscious of safety back then, but they knew that if they ever crashed these things, so your feet were screwed. So these cars were great, and if it hadn't been for John Wire with that little flick up at the back there, that little tongue tab, this car would have never become the legend it did. So thank God for the British man John Wire for engineering this car. And it's actually funny that it was a Brit who actually helped put in so much work to make this car a successful, just like Ken Miles did with the GT40 back in 66 through 63 through 67 through 66 before he died at Riverside. But this car is great, and if you ever seen the movie Le Mans, this car will definitely be recognizable, especially in this paint job, this Golf, this light Golf in that orange stripe paint job. A lot of people will remember that, the Golf Porsche. And just look at the details of this car. I mean, you have these wide tires with the mag looking wheels, and if you look at the back, you'll see that this thing has some huge tires, and that was important for this car's traction because it had a almost a 5-liter V12 with almost close to 600 horsepower, so it needed every bit of traction it could. And this was on treaded tires back in the 1970s. Now the 917 LH, its brother, its long neck brother, had way more downforce, and its tires were just as big. Look up the size of a 917 LH's tires. You'll be surprised. Formula One cars of the day not even Indianapolis cars of this period had tires this big. This car was an absolute beast of a car, and the French and the automotive world were fearful of it, so they banned it. And it was one of the last great normally aspirated prototypes to really have this sort of power. I mean, the 917, the 960, the 956, the next time it would happen would be in the 956 and the 962 era. Although I'm not discounting the 963, and I'm not down the 936, and I'm not discounting the 935. This was one of this Group 6. This Group 5 sports car was something of a beast, and a lot of people did not know that this was the start of Porsche's revolution. Once Porsche got a taste for what it needed to do to beat the world, it wouldn't be stopped. And this was the first chapter in what would be the dominance that would rise in the late 70s and early 80s up until now. So this is the car that kind of got Porsche started in that dominance, and everybody knows that shape. So this silhouette, you show this to anybody who is a racing fan, or anybody who's a racing fan of all ages, and people have seen or heard of this car, you show them this silhouette, they will tell you it's a Porsche 917 because it's unmistakable. From that wood grain gear stick, to that big tachometer, to that really swoopy front end and that red bucket seat, people will know that this is a 917K that won and dominated motor racing for many, many years. And it ended dominance for Ferrari, it ended dominance for McLaren. It spelled the end of, it started the beginning of the dominance of the German auto manufacturers for years to come. So this is the reason why the Germans have a stranglehold. Now I know it started in the 50s with Mercedes, and Mercedes again after the war, and their Formula One things, but the Silver Arrows and the Porsches, well, this technically was part of the Silver Arrow movement, because the Silver Arrows were definitely one, although you don't want to call this a Silver Arrow, it's more of the it's more of the prototype Banshee. So but yeah, just that really look, and I'm glad I saved up enough money in this game to buy this beast for you guys all to sample. So so I will probably be uploading this soon. Hope you guys enjoy this. Good night.